Attention Commander players. My name is Commander Jinsdale, and today we are going to be talking about choices. Specifically, tough choices we're going to be forcing our opponents to make with the new Dimir commander from Theros Beyond Death, Atris, Oracle of Half-Truths. We'll be doing this primarily with Divi effects, a type of card effect first printed back in Invasion Block, which centered around separating cards into two piles, with something good happening to one of the piles and something bad happening to the other. While the different iterations of this effect have varied in power level over the years, the interesting situations they can create makes them, especially the poster boy of the pack, Fact or Fiction, a timeless commander staple. Especially with how much political fun they can create. Just, hope your opponents left their Leyland of Sanctities at home, because they do require an opponent to target. With Atris's Enter the Battlefield effect being a Fact or Fiction on a stick, and with the majority of the Divi cards being within blue, he makes the perfect commander for a strategy centered around this theme, the theme of choice. Our primary goal with this deck is to resolve Fact or Fiction adjacent effects as many times as possible, and accrue a delicious stockpile of value, as we always keep our hand chock full of threats, answers, and more coal to keep the value train chugging along. Using a suite of blink spells such as Displace, Ghostly Flicker, and Illusionist Stratagem, we get to re-trigger Atris's Enter the Battlefield effect and keep digging through our deck, and if the other target for the blinking happens to be a Mnemonic Wall or Possessed Scab, we get to buy back the Flicker spell right away, letting us recast it as many times as we have available mana, to keep Atris pumping out value multiple times per turn. Other noteworthy sources of this blink effect are the new Thassa Deep Dwelling, who lets us blink Atris for free on our end step, and Deadeye Navigator, whose efficacy cannot be overstated, soul bonding to Atris and letting us blink either of the duo for only one and a bluo. To complement and solidify this theme of flickering our stuff, we run a ton of creatures with Enter the Battlefield effects like Commander All-Star's Solemn Simulacrum to ramp us, and Muldrifter to keep the cards flowing if Atris gets a little too expensive to recast. Gaunty, Lord of Luxury, lets us steal a card from the top 4 of our opponent's deck to play for ourselves later, and Ravenous Chupacabra and Hostage Taker help to take our opponent's creatures, and Soul Rings for the latter, off the table. For all-purpose permanent removal, Agent of Treachery does the job frustratingly well, and with Atris and our Fact or Fictions dumping the piles we don't choose directly into our yard each time, we should have plenty of good targets for Phyrexian Delver to nab, as long as we've got the extra life, which shouldn't be a problem if you flicker Gary a couple times. To protect our important cards, we run a tight package of counterspells such as the classic Counterspell, Narset's Reversal to protect our big hitter instants and sorceries, Forbid, which can make use of all the extra cards in our hands so that we always have a counter with its buyback effect, and Familiar's Ruse, where as an additional cost makes us return a creature we control to our hand, which is hardly a downside when every creature in our deck has an Enter the Battlefield effect. And now for the fun part of the deck, the Divi cards. Sphinx of Athun and Unesh Cryosphinx Sovereign stand out as two of the stronger sources of Divi in the deck, being sizable flying bodies that serve as Fact or Fictions on a stiction themselves, with Unesh even discounting Sphinx of Athun by 2 and triggering again when his fellow Sphinx ETBs. Neat. Epiphany at the Drown Yard lets us dump our mana into one huge Divi effect, except that we make the piles ourselves and an opponent decides which pile we get in hand, and Do or Die is the only Divi in the deck that doesn't net us value. Instead, it separates all creatures target player controls into 2 piles, and they choose which pile to keep and which gets sacked for only 2 mana. The other sources of this effect we're packing are Jace, Architect of Thought, whose downtick lets us mini Divi, and Fortune's Favor, which is Atris's ability but for 1 extra mana and 1 extra card at instant speed. Though not Divi cards themselves, Wishclaw Talisman, Manifold Insights, and Scheming Symmetry are absolute flavor victories, and perfectly fit in with the deck's underlying theme of our opponents making impossible choices, and us knowing they mean nothing in the end. Now that you've got all these cards in hand and the value engine has been thoroughly assembled, how do you go about winning the game? Well, my preferred version of the deck uses its immense ability to dig through a mountain of cards to assemble one of many potential combos in the deck, and win from there. My favorite of which involves Ghostly Flicker and Narumiha Master Wizard. See, Ghostly Flicker lets you flicker 2 creatures, artifacts, or lands you control, which sets it apart from its strictly creature targeting siblings. All you have to do is cast Ghostly Flicker targeting 2 lands, then hold priority, and cast Narumiha, targeting the flicker. You copy it, have the copy target a land and Narumiha herself. Narumiha re-enters the battlefield, and the cycle repeats as many times as you want. Float the mana from the land you target between every flicker, and you've just assembled infinite mana. If you have a Muldrifter on board or something that draws cards after you've made infinite mana, you can change the land you target each time to said draw outlet instead, and draw your whole deck to win the game with Thassa's Oracle or Laboratory Maniac. Or just make your opponents draw their decks with Blue Sun Zenith. Or cast a huge Torment of Hellfire. The other combo in the deck involves Peregrine Drake, a notorious card for just this reason. The simplest version involves Peregrine Drake and Deadeye Navigator. Paying 2 to flicker the Drake, then untapping 5 lands. Last time I checked, 5 is a greater number than 2, so huzzah, infinite mana. This can also be achieved with any of the multiple target flicker effects, and an Archaeomancer. Flicker the Drake and Archaeomancer, float your mana, buy back the flicker, untap more mana than you paid to cast the spell. Then, just like with Narumiha, you end the infinite mana chain with a flicker still at your disposal to continue the chain but targeting, say, a Grey Merchant of Asphodel. If combos aren't your style, I would suggest just playing the control game, and eventually you'll find Urborg and Cabal Coffers, which in combination can cast an enormous Torment of Hellfire, or just flicker a Gary a couple times and wipe out the table. Also, I would suggest cutting Peregrine Drake for a Grave Titan, or your preferred beater of choice. Grave Titan just happens to work wonderfully since this ETB can be easily abused to make a huge army of zombies and let you close the game the fairest and timmiest way of them all, through combat damage. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this delve into the realms of facts and fiction with Atris. The full deck list is available via the description as always, and let me know in the comments below what you enjoyed about the video, or what I could do better next time, and what commanders you'd like to see covered on the show. Or don't. The choice is yours after all. Also, a shout out to my buddy Talos for helping me with some of the art I used for the video. Link to all his socials and awesome artistry in the description below. And until next time, at ease.